Welcome. If you're just joining us, I'm Code for Broke, the depths of the man that I was from the start, and I've been developing a video game. It's a high fantasy open world RPG with ultra violence and emergent gameplay, intended to feature a complex ecosystem of terrible fantasy creatures that live and act independent of the player's actions. We're talking cities and monuments, catacombs and crypts, goblins and golems, little green ghouls. It's a labor of love that consumes most of my free time, not spent pretending to be Jordan Peterson in Discord voice channels. It's a massive undertaking, and working on the game's pretty hard too. Well, in the years I've already spent developing it, it's come a long way. I mean, just look at the first few videos compared to the last one. Pretty nice, right? It's just not progressing as fast as I'd like. Having to shoulder the burden of every single element of a game's development is nothing less than psychotic. But I'd do it anyways. One must imagine Sisyphus happy, after all. And since I can't really be hiring people to help thanks to the reality of this subsection of my screen name, you'd think I'd be left to toil alone forever. But truly, I am blessed, and one of the few people I could trust to help me, given I don't know the first thing about protecting my intellectual property legally with random contributors, decided to learn 3D art to contribute to the project, freeing up my time to also pretend to be Bill Clinton in Discord voice channels. Anyways, recently I was showing off my beautiful trees that really took the aesthetic up a notch, and my new teammate really felt they could be improved upon, and so he created this tree instead. I'm of course still not convinced, but take a look at the game world side by side with a new model and you can decide for yourself. I was really thinking, man, that's great progress for somebody that only took up 3D art like a month ago. This guy's pretty motivated. And since I had a spare room in my office, I decided to move him in, just to make sure he keeps up the pace I'm now expecting. Here he can work till his heart's content, completely of his own free will, in a mutually beneficial business agreement where he does 3D modeling in one room, and I load and unload various firearms in the room next to him. Keeping up with the momentum, he made this thinner tree, and this smaller thin tree, and this dead tree. I put them into the world generation, randomly selecting one of the new models during tree placement, and already the variety is starting to make things look a little more interesting. We'll eventually need to work out some more complex placement rules to have all these things make sense together, but this works for the time being. This guy's outputting art so quickly I can barely keep up on the code side of things, so expect that everything you're seeing is going to change significantly. Next, he made some stones. He made this boulder, and this boulder, and this boulder, and this boulder, and several more I didn't render footage for because we've seen enough fucking rocks, I think, except for this little rock pile that he also made. I gave the rocks the same treatment as the trees, randomly selecting one of the rock types during placement, and then I added another placement rule to have some of the larger boulders appear on steep terrain, where rocks and trees wouldn't otherwise spawn. This was a quick and dirty little addition I could easily accommodate with the generation tools I had developed earlier. So everything you're seeing is a simple codeless addition that will need to be reworked eventually. But Christ, it has not been that long. You'd think this guy was getting paid in cups of rice for every model he makes or something. As an unrelated note, I have a Patreon account. Sign up and you get to appear as an NPC in these videos, and the profits are going to a good cause, which is buying rice, which has suddenly become fundamental to this game's development. Next, he made this bush, and this bush, and this bush as well. And then some tufts of grass, this fern, and these ferns. After that, he decided to take a break, which wasn't in his employment agreement, and so after a brief negotiation, he got right back at it, happy as a clam. He made these mushrooms, and this vine. Now these smaller plants are going to need some dedicated handling since they won't have proper colliders and are just for aesthetics. We'll have to later work out a system that's far more performant than spawning game objects, so we can really fill our scene with lots of small details. But for now, I just ham-fisted them in with the existing technology to show off the models in-game. I also implemented a very simple sway shader to give some of the plants a bit more life. I know it's only been a month, but you'd be surprised how much work someone can get done when they don't see the sun rise or set. The art workflow needs to be refined a bit still, but rest assured I've already compiled a list of demands to make further improvements in order to achieve a more cohesive art style. And I have a feeling those demands will be met in full. But I have to admit, this is impressive work for a complete amateur. He has many years of long, completely voluntary work ahead of him, so you can imagine what he might be capable of in the future with a lot more experience. In all seriousness though, it's hard to overstate what a big deal this is for the game. As you can imagine, the benefits of having a dedicated specialist on a team of 2, especially once we really start to gel, are immense. And personally, not having to switch my hat to 3D modeling all the time is a massive benefit for my own development. I'm seriously tickled pink thinking about the future. I always wanted someone to assist on the art side of things, and this is just the perfect situation for me. It truly feels like destiny. People do their best work when they have ownership in what they're doing, so even though he doesn't have professional skills just yet, he's 100 times more valuable as a partner than anyone I could hire, and getting him involved has me more motivated than ever. Anyways, I'd like to give a huge shout out to the fellows on Patreon. Everyone that makes comments and likes the videos really makes this all feel worth it. And personally, things have changed a bit for me recently that affords me more time to work on this project. So the next devlog will come sooner than the last, and it's going to be a huge step forward. I really can't wait to show it off to you. So subscribe if you haven't already, or don't. Do whatever you want, really. Peace out, everybody.
What you want to hear?
I want to hear that Wu-Tang joint.
Wu-Tang again?
Yeah, again and again.